Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I'll be reviewing the WCF Premium Monkey D. Luffy special set, as well as the WCF SHF Luffy just Premium Bandai version. It's pretty much the exact same figure that I looked at previously. Not a lot to talk about here, but it is important for this diorama figure. So basically, this was announced at the same time as the WCF SHF crossover Luffy, and there were two different versions of the SHF WCF Luffy. One with an open palm alternate hand and one with a pointer finger alternate hand. One was a standard release and one was P Bandai. Not really sure why they did that, really. Just, I mean, it's a way to have two SKUs out there, I guess, but kind of weird. Anyway, the whole point of this was that they were making a WCF scale diorama of Luffy and all of his gears. So Gear 2, 3, 4, Snake Man, Tank Man, and Gear 5, as well as the actual posable WCF Luffy in the middle of the diorama as a potential option point. So that's basically why we're doing this review, because I've got all the components for this and they've all arrived. And it's kind of cool, kind of not. It really depends on your mileage for WCF, honestly. But we will be getting into it. So out of this gigantic box, you get the diorama and all of the WCF figures. Now, the coolest thing about this is that the diorama and the WCF figures can be displayed completely separately from one another. So the diorama, it's got a cool little pirate flag with the Straw Hat Jolly Roger, a large version of Luffy's hat. It's got Monkey D. Luffy written down the bottom, as well as the Gum Gum Fruit down in the middle of the diorama, and this sort of smoky effect similar to the effect that Luffy has when he goes Gear 4 and beyond. So it's kind of cool. Then when you open it up, you've got all of the WCF figures, as well as two potential stand pegs for every single figure, as well as 6 bases. And these are so you can display the WCF figures completely separately as regular WCF figures, and the other pegs are so you can attach them to the base. Now, the base is incredibly hard to deal with because some of these figures are quite heavy and the instructions aren't super clear on how everything connects together. It's clear enough, but for figures like the Tank Man, which is very, very heavy, the peg that they've given you is pretty pathetic, honestly. And it is very, very hard to get it all working, and I did not enjoy the process at all, but here it is all set up. So it does look quite nice when you've got all of the gears on there. The detail work on all of them is quite nice. I do quite like the Gear 3 and Gear 2. The Gear 4 one I feel like could have been just a little bit chunkier, or the angle that it's meant to be displayed at just a little bit different. Snake Man looks very similar to the regular Gear 4, and that's because it's WCF style. I do like the Tank Man a lot, even though he is the most fiddly out of the bunch. And generally all the colour and paintwork is nice, and what you would generally expect of WCF quality, so not the best but not the worst either. But the problem with having all of these figures out is that it looks like you are missing something, because there's a big hole in the middle and the flag just isn't going to cut it. So you need to get the WCF SHF Luffy and you just pop him up into a pose and put him in the middle and you complete the diorama. And it's a nice little diorama because generally it isn't that big because it's all WCF scale, so it fits into displays quite nicely and doesn't take up a lot of space. Very colourful, bright, and all that. It is a little bit busy, but I do quite like it. What I don't like is that it might be a quality control thing, but one of the pegs not very great, especially the Tank Man one. But once I put all of the figures on, I realized that my diorama is not actually flat. It's actually warped to a degree, so it doesn't stand perfectly flat. So if you poke it, it'll rock. And I'm not a big fan of that, and I also don't particularly like that the WCF SHF Luffy doesn't plug in. He just rests on top of the fruit, which also kind of sucks because that could scratch the paint over time. And also with the rocking base and everything like that, I'm just not confident in it. It's a cool little display, but if I saw it in person before buying it, I probably would have skipped it. Like, it's cool, but I think I wanted more out of it, especially the price point. I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I think it was in the ballpark of like 250 to 300 Australian dollars just for the diorama. So yeah, I'm not really too sure about that. I'm not that happy with it, honestly. Like, it's cool, it's well made for the most part, but it's just not doing it for me. It's fine, but I'd prefer just like scale figures of all his gears over this, even though it takes way less space. I do like WCF figures. They're not my favorite, but I do like them, and this one, just not a huge fan, especially like some of the poses they chose and designs that they chose. I feel like they could have done slightly more iconic moments. Like Gear 3 makes sense, Tank Man makes sense, and Gear 2 makes sense, although Gear 2 would have been cool if it was the punching down thing. But Snake Man, regular Gear 4 Bound Man, and Gear 5, they could have chosen different poses, but it is what it is. And then that P Bandai WCF SHF Luffy just makes no sense to me, and the whole difference between the two figures, even though the boxes are slightly different, is just like the pointer hand or the open hand. It makes no sense. I don't get it. It's weird, and like, why not just make a release that has both of those hands? I don't get it. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, that's just not super impressed with this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.